Strobe Studios presents Michael Helgens and Greg Kilberger in The Watson Files. Coming to you from the illustrious Strobe Studios in the heart of America, this is Craig Dahlen. And now, let's join the doctor and see what story he has for us today.
Good evening, Mr. Dahlen.
Hello, Dr. Watson. How are you doing this evening?
Just fine, thanks. I was just doing a little reading.
What were you reading?
A new book from Michael Helgens.
Now that name sounds familiar.
I think he and Holmes are pretty familiar with each other.
Well, what's it about?
It's called The Mystery of Magic. It's about a group of United Nations ambassadors who are taken to a fantasy realm and asked to help save the world from evil wizards and undead monsters.
That really does sound intriguing. Now, where can I get a copy?
Indeed. I picked mine up at Amazon.com. I've heard that other retailers will have it soon. Here, I have the trailer for the book on my iPod.
Long ago, when it was time for a world to end, the high priest of the ruling deity set down his mighty mace and palavered with his god. The time has come, Lord. The people of this place have progressed as far as they will ever be able. We have done what we set out to do. You are ready for me to return the favor, then, that you once did for me? Yes. The deity opened his arms, such as they were, and embraced the priests one last time before transforming himself into the symbols of faith. An overwhelming sense of loneliness struck at the priest's heart as he watched the world that he had long loved fade into the mists of time. The new god fell to his knees and wept without ceasing. The silver tears of the god flowed as a river through space and time, and a new realm grew from the silver-enriched blackness. When the god had finished mourning the things that would be forever lost to him, he stopped his tears and looked at the world which had come into being around him. He reached into the sky and drew down stardust and created the inhabitants of the world. He reached between the stars and drew darkness to the new world and created the Shadow Realm. When he was finished, he looked upon it once again and gave it the name that had been dancing on his lips since he first looked upon his creation, Loch Linleya.
From author and voice actor Michael Helgens comes a new novel filled with epic fantasy, adventure, political intrigue, and suspense. The Mystery of Magic begins the epic story of the legend of Loch Linleya and will leave you ensorcelled as 4 United Nations ambassadors embark on a quest to save our world and theirs from evil wizards, armies of undead, and a multitude of other dangers. Don't miss out on this exciting adventure. You can find more information at Amazon.com and an ever-increasing number of retailers.
That sounds great. I'll have to order a copy after you tell me tonight's story. So, what story will you be telling this week?
Well, while we were at Jenny's graduation in D.C., Officer Weathers was having some trouble back home. When we got back, he asked Holmes and I to look into the situation, and we were more than happy to oblige.
Spencer, Dr. Watson, thanks for coming. You guys did good work on that kidnapping case. My friends on the D.C. force were very appreciative of your efforts.
Our pleasure.
Our pleasure indeed.
What seems to be the problem?
Well, like I told Spencer on the phone, we've been getting a call just about every night complaining about strange smells coming from the factory outside of town. We send someone out and always find the place empty.
Have your officers been able to detect the alleged smell?
Sure, I've been out there once or twice myself. It's pretty putrid.
And you haven't been able to figure out where it's coming from?
That's the odd thing. It seems to be everywhere, so we're having trouble tracking it down.
That seems fairly mundane, Max. What do you expect me to do?
I want you two to go to the factory and work your deductive magic and figure out what's making the smell.
The case of the missing smell. Watson, I'm sure Mr. Dahlen will be all a-twitter to hear this one.
Perhaps this will be one of our cases that I spare him.
Indeed. All right, Max, we'll go take a look.
Oh, that smell is quite fierce. What is that?
It is rather odd. Sort of like a combination of recently dead raccoon and my Uncle Horatio's outhouse. Do you have the key that Weathers gave you for the factory door?
Sure. It's not any better in there.
This place is completely empty.
Why was Max so sure that the smell is coming from here?
It does seem to be a good deal stronger in here. Let's have a look around. Here, I got this from Dr. Samuelson. It's what they use when they do autopsies on particularly pungent corpses.
You know it's just a little Vicks Vapor Rub, right?
Sure. Now then, do you have your revolver?
Of course. Do you think I'll need it?
I'd bet that we're not alone. This factory is supposed to be abandoned. Don't you think that there might be some dust on the floor?
I suppose there would be.
Good. Now, if someone is using this place for something, it must not be this main area.
But with everything all cleared out, how could they hide?
That is what I intend to find out. Come along, Watson.
Holmes, I don't see anything.
Nor do I, Watson. I fear that I may have been mistaken.
But there's still that smell.
I think Weathers would do well to hire a plumber.
So, that's it then?
I suppose it is, except for the matter of our recently arrived visitor. Quickly, Watson, to the sides of the door.
Mr. Holmes? Dr. Watson? I suppose they're out looking around.
You are mistaken, sir.
Oh, you caught me off guard.
As was our intention.
I'm Marvin Lancaster. Officer Weathers called our office to ask me to come out here with some equipment to look around.
Ah, are you a plumber? I must say that you don't really look the part.
No, I'm from the new crime scene investigation unit in Central City. I owe Max a favor for his help when I was still a rookie, and our equipment is state-of-the-art.
I'm certain that your equipment is no match for my deductive reasoning, though.
I'd say they're a fair sight better, Mr. Holmes. With respect to your methods, Max mentioned that you've been very helpful. I'm afraid that your methods will become obsolete as more precincts get their hands on crime scene investigators.
Max didn't mention that you were coming.
He called me yesterday. I came straight here after I called him when I got to the city.
I see.
Have you gentlemen found anything here yet?
No, not yet, but we only just started.
Let me have a look with some of my equipment then. I'll let you know what I find.
I'd like to watch you employ your methods, if you don't mind.
That's fine with me. Now, this is my assistant, Jacob Riley.
Hello.
And what is that monstrosity? It looks rather like a floor-buffing machine.
This is a ground-penetrating radar machine. If we don't find anything beneath the factory with this, then we have a few other things we can try. This'll just take a moment.
Holmes, you look rather displeased.
I'm upset that Weathers didn't trust my methods of discovery.
You were about to give up. Why should the fact that these guys are here bother you?
I can think of no reason. I am only interested in observing now to see if I should have anything to worry about. It seems that the machine is no better than I am, though. He's nearly searched the entire floor.
Wait a moment, I've got something here.
What is it?
It's a hollow, and it seems to go toward the back wall and away from the building.
And how do you intend to gain access to this hollow?
I guess we can bring in some guys here with some explosives.
Really? Do you imagine that the regular occupant of the hollow explodes and rebuilds the floor to gain entrance every evening?
That would be silly, wouldn't it?
Indeed. Is there some other way, Holmes?
There must be, Watson. Come, let's have a look. Ah, see here. Had we not been interrupted, I'm sure we would have found this ourselves. See, the wall can be pushed in and slid to the side.
Stairs. Where do they go?
Only one way to find out, Watson. You lads are welcome to come along if you'd like.
Shouldn't we call Max? This could be dangerous.
I'm just a crime scene investigator. We don't really deal with criminals. I agree we should call for backup.
It would appear that my methods are not so useless after all. Come, Watson.
Don't you think they might have been right? This could be dangerous.
Now, Watson, we've been in worse situations before.
And we've only barely managed to escape more of them than I'd like to think about.
Quiet now. There's a light at the end of this tunnel.
I really don't like the idea of going toward the light at the end of a tunnel with you, but if you insist, I'll follow along.
If the police keep snooping around up there, they're bound to find something eventually.
We really need to find somewhere else to get rid of these people.
Right you are, Mr. Todd. I'm sure I could come up with something less noticeable. They do make a rather foul stench.
That they do, Genevieve. We can discuss it with the others when we get back to the lab. You're going to have to make use of your revolver, Watson.
All right. Ready?
Yes.
Hold it right there! What are you people doing?
That is rather grim, but the burning of bodies does explain the source of the dreadful smell. Who the devil are you? I'm Spencer Holmes, and this is my associate, Dr. Jack Watson. You are Stephen Todd and Genevieve Van Driesen. You, along with just a few other people, have been engaging in experiments on humans, and these are the casualties of your scientific endeavors.
Holmes, how do you know all of that?
I came across some documents while we were visiting with Mr. Genslinger last month.
Mr. Genslinger? How? But...
Not important to the moment, Watson.
I told you that Terrence's death would be your undoing.
Shut up. Our man tossed his place and they didn't find nothing. Good. Now, will you tell us where your laboratory is located, and we'll put a stop to your evil deeds. Watson, I should be obliged when we meet with Weathers if you would be good enough not to mention how I came to know the identities of the criminals that we have so lately apprehended.
All right, but you're going to have to explain it to me later.
You are a true friend, Watson. Now, here's Max and that Lancaster fellow.
You were right, Holmes. With the information you gave me, they talked, and we've rounded up the rest of the people who were involved in experiments.
I'm impressed, Mr. Holmes. Seems I might have been wrong about you for now. Eventually, technology will overtake you.
Technology will never be a replacement for human perception.
Give it up, Marv. You won't be able to persuade him. He's stubborn.
You can say that again.
We're pretty sure that they had something to do with the death of Terrence Jackson as well.
I've already explained that as an unfortunate accident, Max.
Maybe we can take a look at the evidence. Maybe there's something you missed, Mr. Holmes.
Don't you have more important things to do with your time than review already solved puzzles, Mr. Lancaster?
Spencer's right, Marv. You should get back to Central City. The man was a criminal, and we've rounded up the rest of the people he was working with. No need to spend any more time on him.
All right, Max. So we're even then?
I guess so, for now.
Huh. So you caught up with some of the criminals who were killing people as part of their experiments and burning the bodies.
That sums it up pretty succinctly.
What did Holmes have to say about Terrence Jackson being involved in finding evidence of the experiments at Mr. Genslinger's mansion?
He did promise me an explanation, but I've still not been able to wheedle it out of him.
Well, you'll have to keep trying. I'm anxious to know what he's hiding.
If he's hiding something, he must have a good reason. I may never be able to figure it out.
I understand. Well, what story are you going to be telling us about next week, Doctor?
Well, next week for our final story of the season, I will tell you about the fate of Professor Marty.
That sounds fantastic. I'll be looking forward to it. Tonight's Watson Files adventure was written by Michael Helgens and directed by Scott Strosahl. Spencer Holmes and Dr. Watson were played by Michael Helgens and Greg Kilberger. Additional voices were provided by Steve Rimpici. Until next week, this is Craig Dahlen saying good night from Strobe Studios.
I love the fact that we're having this argument while I've got a gun on. Because I could just see that. What? That's what I want him to say. So, what? Mr. Genslinger? How? But...
Feel free to do your what there, actually.
What?
I understand. Well, what story are we going to be telling us about next week, Doctor? Now let me do that again.
Sarah cut blah blah blah. Word home blah blah blah. Sometimes I'm just stupid.